And welcome back. Well, now we're going to head into the world of horror because brand new horror film Baghead is on in cinemas right now, and this is a pretty interesting film. It's written, of course, by Bryce Maguire, who made the film Night Swim that came out earlier this year. This time, though, this one is directed by Alberto Corredor, but like Night Swim, it is based on a short film. Now, in this extended version, we see Iris Lark, played by Freya Allen, who most people would know from The Witcher. And she plays a young girl who's got a dream of becoming an artist, although the fact that she doesn't have much money kind of is putting a little bit of a dent in that. Then all of a sudden, the unthinkable happens. Her father passes away, Owen, played by Peter Mullen, passes away and leaves her a kind of deserted pub slash building. And when she arrives there with her friend Katie, played by Ruby Barker, they find that there is a little bit of a mystery in the basement of this venue. Largely a entity slash woman that can take on the spirit of a deceased person, and of course that means that people like Neil, played by Jeremy Irvine, are willing to pay big money to come and speak to people from the past. But at what cost does that happen? Because soon Iris and Katie find themselves with their lives in danger. So, Lee, you're a pretty big horror fan. What did you think of Baghead?
Well, this is quite interesting. As you mentioned, it's basically a demon who shapeshifts and transforms into a deceased person from the past who and a loved one wants to have them conjured up with the help of the owner of the building to delve into the supernatural sphere. Now, when they shapeshift into the person that a loved one is wanting to speak to, they only have 2 minutes to speak to that loved one. And if it goes beyond the 2 minutes, then things go wrong and the demon takes control and basically wants to kill. Now, there is a past or history that is linked to the old pub which the young girl has inherited. And that in itself is intriguing. I just felt like I wanted to know a little bit more about the history of the pub and the people that have previously owned it. So we did get a storyline and we did see some of that story coming through. But I really felt like it could have given us a little bit more of that history.
I wonder if they're going to do a prequel.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think it would be great to see a prequel. The other thing I wanted to see a bit more of was the background of the character of Iris. Because, you kind of get given a bit of an insight that, she and her dad, had a bit of a, not the great relationship.
Fractured
relationship, and she ended up living somewhere completely different to where he lived. I wanted to see more of that story of how it got there. Was it when he started to own the pub? Did that happen before he owned the pub? Like, did the pub, owning the pub, cause him to separate from her so that she'd be safe? Or did that all happen prior? I wasn't sure. Maybe I missed something. I might have. But I just thought that there was so much in the storyline that could have been explored that I felt like it could have been made into a couple of movies or even a mini-series, because there was so much in the story that could have been expanded a lot. I personally liked the film, and I thought the plot was really good and the acting was good. Now, the horror scenes are quite mild, like, for my standards. So I think it suits people who want to watch horror or enjoy watching horror without it being too intense and without having too many graphic or gory scenes. There were a couple of twists in it that I liked. There were some things that happened which I wasn't quite expecting, or in my mind thought that the story was going to do something slightly different. And, you know, I had a couple of those oh no moments, like, oh, I didn't think that would happen. And so I liked that about this as well. As a horror movie, I personally enjoyed it. But yeah, I think for me, I am someone who really does quite enjoy horror that has kind of young people involved in the storyline, but also doesn't have too much gore. I like that kind of psychological component where you're trying to think what's going to happen, and you know, the bit of a thriller, I guess, within the storyline.
Yeah, look, this movie kind of tore me a little bit because I love the general premise of the movie. I love the performances in it, but the one bit that disappointed me was when they had that whole revelation of what the evil actually is. It just felt like an information dump. It wasn't done in a really creative way, that explanation. It was just a real kind of lazy screenwriting process of, well, this character has all the answers and here's a big information dump of what... I thought that could have been done a little bit more in a creative way. And
and expanded. That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
it could go more in depth.
There's a really good setup there for a prequel because you do have one character from the past that was trying to find a way to stop this evil.
Yes.
So yeah, like there is perfect bait there for this to be for it to be a prequel. I thought Alberto Corredor and his team actually did a really good job making the suspense of this movie work by not having many scenes take part outside of the pub.
Yep.
After Iris inherits it. There is, of course, Katie going on the journey at one point. But I thought that added a real claustrophobic feel to the film
and a bit
as
creepy.
well.
It felt creepy. Like the building itself had that creepy feel to it. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I would have slept in that place.
You know, the one thing that I really realized when I was watching this movie, for those people listening, there used to be a mansion here in Melbourne where we used to go for media screenings. So sometimes it was an old mansion in Toorak. I am so glad that this screening was not held in that old mansion that sadly is not there anymore, because I think that would have really creeped you out if it had been in there, because the building is very much a character in this film as well. So, but yeah, look, I did enjoy this. I actually thought this was a pretty enjoyable horror film. I just didn't like that information dump. But Lee, what did you think of Freya Allen in this as well? Because of course she is a young star on the rise. She was a guest on the show a couple of weeks ago. But she, of course, is one of the stars of The Witcher, where she plays Ciri. But she's about to be one of the stars of the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes film as well. So what did you think of Freya Allen as a young actress?
I honestly think that I enjoyed the movie more because she played the character of Iris. Yeah, I thought she really brought something to the role, and she was intriguing. She brought strength to the role. But yeah, I liked the way she portrayed her character. I liked that she kind of showed us some of her past and obviously what she was dealing with. She brought a lot of emotion to the screen in this film. But yeah, I was intrigued by her, and I really believe that with a lot of movies, you've got to get the right person to play the character to pull off the character, but also for you to enjoy the movie. And yeah, I personally enjoyed watching her playing this role.
Yeah, and we should probably credit Anne Mueller as well, who plays Baghead, before the characters change over at times as well. So Lee, what are you going to give Baghead out of 5 and why?
I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5. It certainly was a movie that I enjoyed watching. It had enough suspense and intrigue and creepiness. But for me, I prefer not a lot of gore. I prefer more of a psychological twist, and I thought there were twists in this that I was really happy to have seen.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 as well. So you gave it 3.5. I'm giving it 3. Think it's a well worth look if you're into horror. Baghead is a general release, so make sure you check your local cinema guide to see when it's on, but it should be on at a cinema near you. Lee gave it 3.5. I gave Baghead 3. Go and see it at a cinema near you.